What can I say? I hired the wrong guy.
That was Scully?
Yeah. And he destroyed everything I'd spent 10 years working for.
In 1985, Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he built, not by competitors, not by the market, but by Apple's own board of directors. It was a decision meant to stabilize the company. Instead, it nearly destroyed it. By the early 1980s, Apple was one of the most valuable and influential companies in Silicon Valley. Steve Jobs had co-founded Apple less than a decade earlier, turning a small garage operation into a public company worth billions. The Apple II was a massive success, and Apple's going public made Jobs famous overnight. But success brought pressure. Jobs was young, intense, and uncompromising. He demanded perfection, pushed teams relentlessly, and often ignored conventional management rules. Inside Apple, Jobs was both admired and feared. As Apple grew, the board became concerned that Jobs' leadership style wasn't suited for a large public company. They wanted stability. Jobs wanted revolution. To balance that tension, Jobs recruited a seasoned executive from Pepsi. His name was John Sculley. At first, the partnership worked. Jobs focused on product vision. Sculley handled operations, marketing, and corporate structure. But cracks formed quickly. The Macintosh. Jobs' passion project was struggling. Sales were disappointing. Costs were high. Deadlines slipped. Jobs responded by pushing harder. Sculley responded by trying to slow things down. What began as creative tension turned into a power struggle. Jobs believed Apple needed bold decisions and radical innovation to survive.
It wasn't an issue of vision, it was an issue of execution, in the sense that my belief was that Apple needed much stronger leadership to sort of unite these various factions that we created with the divisions, that the Macintosh was the future of Apple, that we needed to rein back expenses dramatically in the Apple II area, that we needed to be spending very heavily in the Macintosh area, things like that. And John's vision was that he should remain the CEO of the company.
Behind closed doors, Apple's board began to lose confidence in Jobs. Not because he lacked vision, but because they believed he lacked control. In 1985, the conflict reached a breaking point. While Sculley was away on business, Jobs quietly attempted to reorganize the company and strip Sculley of authority. The plan failed. When Sculley returned, he confronted the board. The board had a choice. On one side was Steve Jobs, the founder, visionary, and public face of Apple. On the other was John Sculley, the experienced executive promising stability. They chose Sculley. In a closed-door meeting, the board stripped Jobs of his operational power. He was removed from the Macintosh team. His authority was reduced to a ceremonial role. Steve Jobs had not technically been fired, but he had been neutralized. Soon after, he resigned. The man who built Apple no longer had a place in. In the short term, the board believed they had made the right decision. The company was calmer, more predictable, more manageable. But something was missing. Without Jobs, Apple began to lose its identity. Product lines became confusing. Innovation slowed. The company focused on incremental improvements instead of bold leaps. Market share declined. Apple wasn't failing, but it was drifting. Meanwhile, Steve Jobs was just getting started. After leaving Apple, Jobs founded a new company called Next. It wasn't immediately successful, but it refined his thinking about design, software, and systems. At the same time, Jobs purchased a small animation studio that would later become Pixar. Pixar revolutionized filmmaking. Next quietly built the foundation for modern operating systems. Apple, struggling to innovate, eventually found itself in a position it never expected. In 1997, Apple brought Steve Jobs back. Not as a symbolic founder, but as a leader with real authority. This time, the system around him was different. Jobs streamlined the company, killed failing products, rebuilt Apple around a clear vision. What followed reshaped the modern world. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone. This story is often framed as betrayal, but the real lesson is structural. Boards are designed to reduce risk. Visionaries are designed to embrace it. In 1985, Apple's board chose control over creativity, short-term stability over long-term innovation. That decision made sense, on paper. But great companies aren't built on safety alone. They're built by people willing to challenge systems, ignore convention, and take uncomfortable risks. Steve Jobs didn't fail Apple. Apple's system failed Steve Jobs, until it changed. This is Empire Revealed, where we break down the decisions behind the world's most powerful companies. If you want more stories about power, risk, and the moments that shape empires, subscribe.